Are you ready?
Time now for the Sunday Morning Hangover with Nick Curran and Phil Baker.
Are you ready?
Time now for the Sunday Morning Hangover.
Are you ready?
Time now for the Sunday Morning Hangover with Nick Curran and Phil Baker on your number one spot for sports in Louisville, ESPN 680 and 105.7.
Phil Baker asked me, said, if you're going to have Jay on, would you please thank him? He comes on every year. Phil does the Sunday Morning Hangover show, and you come on, he said, and make a Super Bowl pick every year, and he just wanted to thank you. So,
okay.
Yeah, you don't even know who I'm talking about, do you?
No, I do not. What?
Snowmageddon. We have made it. Maybe. I don't know. Depending on Mark with the C. Weinberg, we'll have to see what his forecast is up there. Hi there. What's
Did he submit one?
I don't think so. Maybe he will to be with the Super Bowl pick. You never know. Hi there. Let's sports talk radio, shall we? During this very snowy Sunday here in beautiful Louisville, Kentucky. I am Phil Baker. That is Nick Curran. Justin Sofro producing today's affair, so appreciate that. Nicholas, hopefully you are surviving the Snowmageddon. You got all your bread and milk from Kroger. You got everything. You're got your electricity, your power. Hopefully, knock on wood, everything's good right now.
So far, I'm not sure how good our internet's doing, so we'll see how that goes today from home. But yeah, aside from that, everything good so far. We'll see how the rest of the day pans out.
So I have the Baker bunker like Joey, Joe Lenardi. And so are we going with the Curran cabin, Curran's castle? Like, what are we going with this? Is this just...
I don't know. We're in the process. So my dad has retired from like active full-time work, but he's become basically a full-time woodworker in retirement. So he's working on building me a full desk here for what is going to become my office in the upstairs of our home, but it's not quite done yet. And you can tell by the echo, there's literally there's nothing on the walls or on the floor, so there's nothing really to absorb much sound right now. But one day, that's what this will be. The desk is near completion, just has to be installed. Turns out this weekend would not have been a great weekend to try to get that done. But yeah, we're in the attic somehow. That's probably
okay,
what it is. I don't know what alliteration you can do with
the Nick Nook.
The attic.
The Nick Nook, I like that.
Okay,
maybe the Nick Nook,
fine.
I like that. That's
Nick
a
Nook,
nice little.
That's what we'll go with. Yeah,
Nick Nook. All right, he's at Nick Curran 35 on Twitter/X. Justin Sofro, like I said, producing today's event. I think we're doing some stuff on YouTube and ESPN Louisville Plus. We're all remote today, so to be completely transparent, this is why we're doing this. Some different manner. I don't know what our week's going to look like with this. I think everyone's preparing. Strebel was asking for a laptop. You had Dieter's in Vegas. I think Diener's going to the AFC Championship game today as well. So he's flying out there. So some
what
of the
a life that guy lives.
I mean, no kidding. So some others are preparing to like stay the night there, kind of like a la Process and Jack Grossman did back in the day. I'm sure Nick Curran had many late nights, sleeping near the board, taking a little snooze for a late West Coast trip for the Reds game. So this is kind of the MO. So we'll be on tomorrow, but I don't know where everyone's going to be. So this is why we're kind of being the guinea pigs for this. Appreciate Andy and Justin helping out for this. Like I said, Justin Sofer on Twitter, Nick Kern 35 on Twitter /X. I am Phil __ Baker. Appreciate you. Hopefully everybody's staying safe out there. It's not, the roads weren't too bad as of last night, but I haven't been out yet. So that's why we are all remote. But hopefully everyone's been flexible. Hopefully all the teams are able to get in and out. I know Nick was kind of tipping me off earlier a couple days ago with like, hey, there may be a doubleheader at the Yum. I didn't know it was all kind of contingent on Boston College, but nonetheless, we're able to get that game in. So I know that was a nice kind of switcheroo for the Louisville women's basketball team, getting in there, tip off, 11 o'clock, and then the men's at around 2:15. So all in all, they were able to get them in.
Yeah, I don't know that 2 o'clock today would have worked very well. That was the originally scheduled time for the game, but got it in at 11 a.m. yesterday. And Boston College obviously had to move up their flying. They would have flown in yesterday for a Sunday game, but instead they had to fly in on Friday. And then they had to find officials, which was a very important part of it, to make sure there were officials that could make it for the 11 a.m. Saturday game. So the ACC had to shuffle a lot of that around. And then here's how Boston College made it work, by the way, which is incredible. And kudos to them. They're having a rough year. It was a dominant win for the Cards yesterday. BC's now lost 14 straight games. Louisville's won 12 in a row, 9-0 in the ACC, halfway through ACC play, getting ready for the West Coast swing, which will be really, really difficult. We can get into all that. But so BC women's basketball flew into Louisville Friday. Then after the game yesterday, busing to South Bend to meet the men's team for BC, who was playing in South Bend against Notre Dame last night for a 6 o'clock tip, going to that game and then flying with the men home back to Boston because South Bend, I think, was going to get some snow, but they don't even care. They don't bat an eye at that. It snowed a foot from the lake effect when the Cards were there a couple of weeks ago, and it was like nothing happened. So they were going to get some snow, but they'd be able to get out, and then it wasn't going to hit Boston, I don't think, until like tonight or tomorrow. And they were looking at maybe a foot in Boston, but I was talking to their SID, and he's like, "Yeah, that doesn't matter. It'll be cleared off, and we'll be good to go." So, so they were able to bust their way to South Bend and then fly with the men back to Boston to make sure they could get home, which is incredible. And kudos to them for being able to make the adjustment, and for everyone involved to be able to have that game at 11 a.m. yesterday instead of trying to play it today.
Well, and I was actually thinking of you because I know you got your West Coast trip coming up here in a bit. And I know the Louisville men's just went through this a couple weeks ago with bringing in the New Year's on the West Coast. It's like you kind of got to think that in terms of proximity, Notre Dame is kind of like the geographical. If there is an issue like with the scheduling, you would think that it's like, hey, let's get Notre Dame in next in terms of like, hey, if the team is going to be playing in this vicinity, you would think like for something like this that they would try to, similar to what they do with Stanford and Cal. I know it's not ideal and it's not just, an hour up the road. It's a little bit further than that. But I was thinking of that if like, if they got to get a little travel issues in there, it's like try to double up it with the men's team and try to save some money in this crazy. Don't tell Mick Cronin this though, because Mick Cronin he'll bang his head up against the wall with all these traveling issues and just the disadvantage that UCLA got from this. So we can dive into that here in a bit too.
Well, the schools out there are living a tough situation, especially in the ACC. At least in the Big Ten, you have an Oregon and a Washington and a USC to be somewhat out there. So you have 4 teams, but what the schools have to go through, what Stanford and Cal have to go through in the ACC, traveling back east every other week and playing 2 games, basically, it's just it's brutal. The rest of the schools just have to go out there once every other year, and you make a 2-game road trip of it, which is inconvenient and different and can throw things off, and it's proven to be very tough for teams to go out there and win 2, both on the men's and women's basketball side. But it's not nearly as tough as what they have to deal with, like making that trip basically every other week, which is just absurd. And I just don't know how it's sustainable, but I guess that's a conversation for another time.
Well, and you look, I mean, yeah, Mick Cronin and UCLA have no problem cashing those checks either, which is always rich to me. With the Pac-12 could still exist, but the powers that be at the said schools decided to do that. But I digress as well. Reminder for driving
it'll
around
be
today.
back next year. The Pac-12's back. It's not dead.
Well, I don't think Mick Cronin and UCLA and company have any desire to go back to that. They like the little money that they get over there. He's Nick Kern. I'm Phil Baker. Reminder: if you do got to go out and about today, or if you just want to, get out, gather around the fireplace, you can listen to Westwood One's coverage of the AFC and NFC Championship. We'll dive into that maybe at the end of this hour coming up as well. Going to be kind of hard to take calls today. We're all remote, but I mean, Nick, you tell me. I guess we can start with the Kentucky game. That was first. I know you were on the call for the Louisville women's game, so it was kind of a Rubik's Cube for you, but I know you've watched it. Otega Owe scoring 20 of his 23 points in the second half leads Kentucky to a fifth straight win, 72-63 over Ole Miss. Some familiar faces. You got scoring Corin Johnson on the team, James Scott on Ole Miss team, and poor Travis Perry, the Kentucky native, was getting booed every time he touched the ball, which just made me sad. I don't know why it made me sad, but it made me sad. And Kentucky was able to get pull away, and then Jasper Johnson was big. Colin Chandler hit a massive three at a pivotal time to pull away. But Kentucky, I mean, the sky is, dare I say, not falling anymore.
Yeah, listen, I thought it was a heck of a win. Really had to gut it out. Just kind of a slog fest of a game, and a really poorly officiated game, I thought. Not necessarily benefiting one team or the other. It felt like it was impossible for the teams to kind of get in the flow, because sometimes they let them play very physically. Sometimes it was a tight whistle. Just some really rough calls, I thought, at weird times both ways. And so had to overcome that and find a way to pull off a win. And I thought that was really impressive, playing without Cam Williams, who's down with that with a broken foot. And you mentioned sort of the all former guy team there on Ole Miss. The common thread, none of them had particularly impactful games. James Scott hit his only shot at 2 points, 4 rebounds, and assists, 2 steals and a block with no turnovers, and he probably had the best game out of the 3. Corin Johnson only played a little under 5 minutes, didn't really do much, didn't have anything in the stat sheet other than a couple of missed shots, and Travis Perry only 2 rebounds and a steal. The guys that were coming back, the familiar faces as it were, didn't do much for Ole Miss. I thought Kentucky defended really tough and had to deal with foul trouble because the officiating was just rough, but they were able to weather it. Malachi Marino sneakily made a couple of really huge plays, an offensive rebound off a missed free throw late in the game that I thought was really, really key. Obviously, Owe has gotten back to playing like the SEC player of the year that he was last year in the preseason, or the SEC preseason player of the year, I should say this year, and SEC player of the year caliber player he was last year. And he just, again, has decided to be aggressive again, to try to get to the basket, and I think that's been huge. And Jasper Johnson becomes really important for this team with Williams out. Johnson is going to have to step up, and I think he's done that the last few. And another good game yesterday, 3 of 6 threes. They need his shooting. They need him to be able to knock down shots, I think, particularly with Williams out, who was certainly one of their better shooters. So I think a huge game. And you mentioned Colin Chandler didn't shoot it well, only 2 of 10, 2 of 7 from 3, but hit all of his free throws.
Hit that huge
three. Yes, and wasn't scared to take that. And I think that's big. He has to be willing to shoot it because he's going to have to be one of the key shooters on this team. Had 7 rebounds, so he was impactful, even not scoring. Again, there's a couple of ways to look at this team right now. It's either, wow, they're sort of playing with fire and are in a lot of close games, and obviously yesterday was no different. Sort of living on the edge, falling behind, having to overcome big deficits often. Not the last couple necessarily, but that has happened. Is it, that's going to catch up to them? Or is it, they're going to be battle tested as we get deeper and deeper into the season and into the postseason? I kind of think of it that way. And I think this team just gets more and more dangerous with each passing game and with each win. And I thought it was just a tough game because it was physical, but also the officiating was really inconsistent. Held Ole Miss to under 33% shooting and knocked down free throws, 28 of 38 at the line. They got to the line a lot. They took advantage of those opportunities, doubled up Ole Miss at the free throw line, outscored them 28-14 there. And I thought it was a really gutty, sort of gritty win in a weird situation with it being an 11 a.m. game. I know it wasn't moved up that much for them, but still a little bit different. It's not the norm. And I thought that was a really, really good win.
Yeah, no, I think alluding to some of the terrible officiating, it was pretty humorous to me because that one like hook where it was called a foul on Otega Owe, I was like, I've seen this story before. Horrible call, but I've seen this storyline before where Kentucky just kind of pees down its leg and falls apart. So kudos to them. They keep winning, man. And it hadn't been pretty, but, for some of the calls that I know Sofra, who's producing today, have put together on reels and had some fun with some of the callers where they wanted them out. Mark Pope's got to be feeling pretty good right now considering all the injuries that have been out there with that. 437-9680 UPS Jobs text line. Next up for Kentucky, a tough one down in Vanderbilt on Tuesday. Who knows what that's going to look like? You'd think by Wednesday night, and that kind of plays into the Louisville big Monday night with Duke. I know Pat Kelsey had some comments about that. As well as they got a big win over the Hokies. We'll dive into that here in a bit as well. But I mean, they keep winning, and it's kind of a tough stretch now for Kentucky where you think where it's like, okay, so this is kind of your team now, but you got, I mean, this week alone, Vanderbilt, who's much improved, kind of the trendy SEC team that's been out there. Oh, a little guy I like to call John Calipari going down there on Saturday, 6:30 on ESPN. So you think that's going to be a hostile environment just a little bit, that you don't think Cal's going to get his guys up for that. So you got that coming up. But no, I mean, you have to be pleased considering where it's at. The season, they still got a lot of making up to do in terms of that, but the amount of quad one games that are left on their schedule are a lot. So they're going to have an opportunity to climb that ladder. I was on with Andy on Wednesday, and I think Lenardi, which if he has Wi-Fi in his bunker, I'll see if he's updated that, and we will see if where he hasn't. But I think he had Kentucky as a 7 seed earlier this week, which is an opportunity to climb, quite frankly. So that's going to be fascinating. We'll see what Bracket Matrix has up there, maybe coming up in hour 2. Louisville, Mikel Brown. I mean, I think this is one of those storylines that, look, I get the tinfoil hat and what Louisville fans have gone through in the last decade. I get it. Going back 20 plus, 30. I mean, Allen Houston, he's coming here and then he's not. Rajon Rondo, D'Angelo Russell, Sebastian Telfair, just always kind of being left at the altar. And it's so funny because Dieter and Blank talked about this, and you, I think, more so than most people, and Andy said this too, will love this. Louisville fans just expect the worst a lot of times. It's there's something where it's like you got something good with a lottery pick. Well, it's got to be a Shaden Sharp type situation like that. It's just got to be that the dad's he's not going to play his lottery pick, and then he goes out there and plays. And I mean, look, we've said it, not to be hyperbolic about, I've thrown my back out before, and I know this is kind of the crutch that all these gas bags have been talking about. It's like that we're on the side of the Mikel Brown and his family. I couldn't walk for days, and it was the most painful thing ever. I couldn't imagine being a D1 athlete and enduring some of those things for that, and fighting over screen and being afraid to tweak it again. Especially, I'm still a top 10 projected lottery pick too. So I get it that's kind of a component out there, but for him to go out there and have the return that he did, that's why he's different. That's why the team has, in my opinion, has looked different with him not in rotation.
Yeah, it's hard to argue with how they handled it when you saw him get back and the way he played. It looked like he hadn't been out at all, and I thought that was incredible. And Virginia Tech has played, obviously, in a ton of close games in the ACC. That's been the MO for them so far. Louisville jumped out to a big lead. Virginia Tech tried to reel them in a few times in the second half, and I thought, it was Mikel Brown Jr. being on the floor. That was the difference, whether he was getting to the rim, hitting a three. I know one time they cut it to, I think, 8, and he hit a big three. Or if he was setting somebody else up, finding Sananda Fru for a dunk underneath or for an and one, he had an answer every single time. And that's what they've missed without him. Obviously, he's been super important. Right back in it with 6 assists. Did have 4 turnovers, but 20 points, 7 of 11 shooting, 3 of 6 from 3. I don't think you could have asked for much more than that in terms of the efficiency. And he by being on the floor, he makes everyone else better. And I think you could easily see that from the 8-game stretch where he didn't play, then back yesterday. It's just like they're a different team. And obviously they blew out Pitt last weekend and didn't have him for that and looked good. But that was because they shot the ball well. They shot it well yesterday, not like they did at Pitt, but like it wasn't shooting dependent necessarily. It felt like they were able to get to the rim and get more going to the basket, and that's directly Brown being able to create for himself and for everybody else. I thought Javon Hadley had a great game, and I think largely, Brown able to find him underneath and help get him set up, and then the sort of aggressiveness is just contagious. And, Hadley took it from the wing right to the rim one time, I remember in particular in the second half. And it was sort of a quiet game for Ryan Conwell, most of it. But just having Mikel back on the floor, I thought made such a huge difference. And that's a Virginia Tech team that, capable of coming in there and winning, or at least having it go down to the last possession, and Louisville was able to really dominate that game, and I thought that was really impressive.
That is playing something from there. If that came through there, I apologize. I'm playing something from my computer. I was trying to try to see if I do some SoFro. That is not on you. That is on me. But no, I'm with you. The sport, their team is littered with foreign players that have some professional ball underneath their belt. And like you said, like the triple overtime game that they had against Virginia a few weeks ago, 1-point games against SMU, I tend to think like that's a fringe tournament team. Like I think you just kind of get caught up in not having.
I think they could be, and barring a mid-court shot dropping against SMU at SMU
right
at the Horn, they probably are looked at without question as a tournament team right now. That obviously would have been a really nice win on the road, but I think they're certainly capable of being a tournament team, and we'll see where they go. But that's a good win yesterday. I think having to fight that off, they defended so well in the first half. Virginia Tech obviously hit some shots in the second half, but like Virginia Tech hit 16 threes, went 16 of 30, and the perimeter defense I think is still a concern. But yeah, they hit 11 of 17 threes in the second half. Like, you look at those numbers, and I don't think there's any way Louisville's winning that game and winning it decisively if you just saw the stat sheet without seeing the score. And I think that's what Mikel Brown brought to it yesterday, is they were able to still win decisively despite the fact that Virginia Tech shot the lights out.
Yeah, and I'm sorry if there's if you're hearing something from that's probably on my end. I'm trying to pull up a box score and it's just doing this silly pre-roll, so that is not on you yet. Again, that is me. He's Nick Kern. I'm Phil Baker. Justin Sofro producing today's affair for us. Appreciate that. We're all remote today. He's in the Nick Nook. I'm in the Baker bunker, and Sofro is in his I like to call his dungeon of ESPN Louisville Plus that he has built from that. But also, real quick, and we'll get to a break coming up here in a couple minutes. But this is from our buddy Chris Hatfield. Great follow on Twitter. The best wager per stat head. You ready for this, Nick? Louisville is the first team to win an ACC conference game by double digits with an opponent making 15 plus threes, shooting 50% from deep. So here's the full list of ACC teams to ever do it, and Louisville's the first basketball team as well. So North Carolina in 2006, Virginia Tech in 2006, and Georgia Tech in 2006. So that's an interesting little tidbit right there from our little analytics guru over that. Also something Hadfield put out there a little bit during the game yesterday, which I found interesting as well. Just, how big is Mikel Brown to this team? Louisville layup attempts in January by games. You had 15 against Stanford, where people say they live and die by the three. 15 against Stanford, 15 against Duke, 18 against Virginia, 20 against Boston College, 20 against Pitt. You ready for this? Mikel Brown returns, and this is against Virginia Tech. They got 19 layup attempts times in the in the second half at the under 16 timeout versus Virginia Tech. So you see what he can do to it. Everyone says you'll live and die with the three. And I know there was a couple turnovers that he had off his foot, but it also, he can get to the paint and get some better looks for the guys out there as well. And I think that's something that's going to be contingent if the team wants to maybe get back on track to try to get to some sort of ACC championship, run in the tournament and contending for that. They're going to have opportunities for that as well. So he's Nick Curran. I'm Phil. Oh, go ahead.
Sorry. Didn't mean to cut you off. But
no, you're
just last point for me on him. They're a different team with him on the floor, which was obvious by the way they performed yesterday and the numbers you just mentioned. The other part of it is he is in almost every game the best player on the floor. And that's just so important to be able to have that, and to have not had that for a while, to be able to weather it and go 4-4. You might look back at that stretch at the end of the year and say, man, they really kept themselves afloat. If they can turn this into, I saw Andy tweet something yesterday. He doesn't think they could get like a 1-3 seed. And I don't know that they could be a 1 seed, but I still think a 3 could be in play. I think maybe even a 2 could be in play with what they have left on the schedule. And then the ACC tournament, obviously that would require not many losses. We'll see what happens, getting way ahead of ourselves there. But he brings so much to them and is going to be more often than not the best player on the floor on either team. And to not have had that for such a long stretch, definitely a big thing. And now if he gets in foul trouble or has to sit for whatever reason, they know they can find a way to weather it without him, because they had to do it for 8 games. But they certainly would love to have him more on the floor more often than not.
But yeah, it's definitely different when he's in there, and that's no disrespect when Ryan Conwell tries to be the primary ball handler. But I think we've seen in previous games that that's not the key. Kobe Rogers, I think, is a serviceable backup point guard. It ain't Mikel Brown. Adrian Woolley, when he goes in, there's some good things that can happen. It's just it feels different when Mikel Brown is in there, and that's not taking anything away from them. It's just more so how good I think Mikel Brown is on that, which I'm stating the obvious on that. Hopefully everyone is surviving Snowmageddon. We kind of got it. I know Sofro and I will do that in the second hour. We'll dive into a little bit more of that. But Nick, if you had any thoughts about just the meteorologist wars over the last couple of days before we get to a break, I mean, it's been great. I've me, I'm built for this, and I've loved everything about it. Our guy Mark with the C. Weinberg, he got the KSR army going up against them, and he didn't care, and I love that.
He doesn't care, and that's the best part about him. He is the perfect heel professional wrestler. He embraces the hate. He embraces the heat. Doesn't care one bit. Love that about him too. Leave the man alone. Let him do his job. He's just trying to work out a forecast. He doesn't have time to turn in those sorts of things.
More super
well, no, we know that. You'll get an email though.
I'll get an email.
Yeah, it's just crazy stuff, and I do think it's kind of a cool thing that they're doing, like donating money to charity for
freaking
trying to get
Tori on there. God, that's crazy.
Yeah, we're trying to. I need to get in touch with those guys. We're trying to get Cam Tori out to one of the humidity dates this year.
God, have him throw a first pitch. That would be great.
Oh yeah. We'll have to try to work on that.
Reach out to STD Shannon the dude.
Yeah, that's going to have to be the route, I think. But just kind of certainly a cool thing. And we'll see who ends up being right. Certainly a high amount of snowfall and all that stuff. But entertaining nonetheless. It's Weinberg has now gone to war with both the UK and U of L fan bases over the last couple of years. U of L over potential severe weather, more in the warm weather type situation.
Awful announcing with Diener.
Yes.
I think he made Bro Bible for this, whatever that is, but apparently they got millions of followers. My buddy sent that to me.
And now, yes, with UK over winter weather. I love that so much. I love everything about it. And I can tell you, we talked about it. He came in the booth after the whole spat with, I think a couple of football seasons ago now, like the severe weather potential for a game for Louisville. And he does not care one little bit. He's like, I'm just doing my job. I'm not trying to scare anybody. I'm just doing my job. And I respect it. He doesn't care.
Shout out. He is doing your job. So gather around the fireplace, listening to the NFL, AFC, NFC championship games via Westwood One. You can do that, or you can watch the games. I'm sure I know those are on CBS and Fox. So if you want to have that locked in, you can watch those as well. Get Nick's thoughts on his Pats coming up here at the second part of the show. All right, let's do this. Take a quick break. On the other side, we'll spend some more time on the game, what it means for the area team, some bracketology, as well as Mikel Brown's triumphant return. Also, if you're driving around tonight, or if you're just at home, Sofro, he's got you covered with ESPN Louisville Plus After Dark on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook. He'll be doing that from his dungeon, talking about who impregnated him from the Louisville basketball team and make a bit out of that. He's Nick. I'm Phil. Justin Sofro producing today's event right here on your sports leader, ESPN 680 1057.
Welcome back to the Sunday Morning Hangover, presented by the Louisville Bats on ESPN 680 and 1057. Now, here's Nick Curran and Phil Baker.
All right, welcome back. Sunday Morning Hangover here on your sports leader, ESPN 680, 1057, the ESPN Louisville app. Nick in the Nick Nook. I am in the Baker bunker. Justin Sofro in his dungeon. He is ESPN Louisville Plus. Reminder tonight, ESPN Louisville Plus at 9 o'clock on YouTube. There's the dungeon. He's got a nice setup down there. He's doing it. I think, Sofro, he's going to be relied on this week because I don't know what to. Blanket Baker lives on a hill. He's not making the trek from Santa Claus, Indiana. Dieter's in, I don't know, Vegas or Denver. Andy, they're prepared. I'm just saying. So we'll be live out there, but this is a good avenue. We can be the guinea pigs. We can be the test dummies for this with YouTube and try to stream it from that. So he's Nick Kern. I'm Phil Baker. Sunday Morning Hangover here on your sports station. Spent the first segment talking about weather and Snowmageddon and everything that has come with that. Hopefully everyone has their milk and bread and their whatever else necessities that they need. Now is the Kern household freaking out over this, or you're just kind of like, I got my groceries, I'm good?
Yeah, I wouldn't say we're freaking out. I would say there's some shoveling in my future, but yeah, not too bad. It'll be a nice day here at the house. Just be able to hang out and I'm guessing we're not gonna have to be in the office on Monday at the bat, so probably get that day here as well, and then we fly out to California on Tuesday. So
shout out to you, Oakland.
Yeah.
So y'all are going to the Warriors game, right? Or were you contemplating that? Is that going to be?
There is a Warriors game. We're not going that I know of. Like, there's not a team outing to the Warriors game as of yet. We'll see if something happens. But there is a game. They host the Pistons on Friday, so that's a possibility. We might try to find some cheap tickets and.
Top of the East, too. Not a terrible team. The Pistons are up there.
Oh,
man.
yeah. That's a pretty good one. We are scheduled to tour Alcatraz as well at some point, so that'll be.
Say hi to Sean Connery and Nicolas Cage for me. All right. He's spent a ton of time talking about Mikel Brown returning for the Louisville Cardinals and what that means for them moving forward. Big Monday against Duke. Hopefully he gets it. I know Pat Kelsey in his introductory press conference, his press conference, I should say, not introductory press conference, post-game press conference. He said as of now they're planning on doing it. That was via our buddy Matt McGavick. So I don't think anything has changed with that as of yet.
I do know that there's the thought that they might have to fly in day of game on Monday if this is going to happen, because getting out of here tomorrow or today, that would be today, would be a challenge. So they might have to fly out like day of game tomorrow and get there. We'll see. There was also some whisperings maybe it could shift to Tuesday because Raleigh getting hit with some ice as well. I think there's going to be quite a bit of ice there. So we'll see. We'll see how they're able to handle all that. It's going to be interesting. It's going to depend. I think they're going to be able to get out of here. It's just going to be a question of whether they can get into to Raleigh or not.
Yeah, and you know, the beautiful thing of this is just how flexible all of this can truly be. Like, I think when you sent me a message the other day when we were kind of going back and forth, and I was like, oh my goodness, granted it was contingent, and kudos to Boston College women's basketball team for able to make it work, but it is funny at the end of the day how flexible all of this can be. You know what I mean? Like, people now you can move a game. Like, TV doesn't have to dictate anything. Like, the CW doesn't have to, they can swing their weight around, but like, we can flex a Vampire Diary or Love Island if we want to on there.
TV still did dictate it. Make no mistake. Kentucky was able to move up an hour. It was on ESPN. So it's like, okay, let's just take it an hour earlier. No problem there. We'll move game day up and we'll be fine. The CW basically moved up its times a little bit. Obviously, they can preempt whatever programming they had, but it is crazy how much stuff has to happen in order to move it. The officials, the teams, the arena personnel, like, hey, we need you here now.
Travel, hotel, yeah.
There's a lot that goes into it, and the ACC in particular, unfortunately, like the only teams in the ACC footprint not impacted by this, I guess you could say Notre Dame, not overly impacted, or like Boston College or Pitt or Syracuse, but like Stanford and Cal are like the two. Everybody else kind of dealing with some part of this winter storm. So really difficult for the ACC to try to navigate it just because all their teams are kind of right in the heart of everything that's happening.
Yeah, it's just kind of a sign of, but it is nice to know that, hey, like, we could do it, especially now that the NFL, you just have the AFC and NFC championship games to worry about. It's funny. Things can get a little bit more flexible on the mothership if need be. So, and it's funny. It's like you can re-rack them. How many times I turn on FS1 and it's like, hey, this is a replay of a game up there. And, how many people that, the diehard sports of those said teams can do it, but it's nice to know that they can do it if needed. Plus, it was great that we had a game at 11 o'clock. I mean, I've been up for a few hours, so I'm like, hey, this is wonderful. We got sports on before noon. This is great, and it's not soccer. Take that, Ince.
If you really want to make it work, it can. There are some teams that maybe didn't go all in on that. Like I think it's North Carolina plays at home today, and we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, it should be interesting. All right. So I know you're not going to join us for the second hour. I'll dive into a little bit more in depth with this. I was texting with Jack Grossman, so we can be all over the place with the Louisville games. I didn't know if you had anything else on some of the other games around the country. Some great slate of college basketball games with UConn and Villanova. You had Purdue and Illinois. You got a plethora of other games that were going on throughout the day. So it was great to see all of that. But Indiana, national champions in college football, still something I did not think we would ever see in our lifetime. You and I do the bit where we're like, yeah, they're going 6-6 or 5-7. That's my childhood in a nutshell. But I mean, I know we're about almost a week removed from that. But what say you? They had the celebration yesterday in the stadium. Sig just it looked like a decade ago for Indiana games, but it was a little cold with a winter storm approaching, so you can't be too mad about it. But all in all, just a crazy story, and what a wild second half.
Oh, just a great ball game. Indiana finishing it off. Fernando Mendoza just adding to the legend, as it were, with that touchdown run. And I guess in some ways Carson Beck sort of adding to the legend as well with the way the game was sealed up. But a heck of a ball game. Two really good teams. The Big Ten, the preeminent conference in college football, I think you have to say right now, having won the last 3 national championships, all within like a 300-mile triangle or something like that, which is pretty funny. And I think Miami did a lot, should do a lot for the perception of the ACC, made it to the national championship game. Some people were saying they shouldn't have even been in the playoff. And a team that took 2 losses in the league goes on and makes it to the national championship game and gave what many consider one of the best teams in college football history everything it wanted in the title game. So hopefully it can put some narratives to bed a little bit. I doubt it will, but maybe it will. The tide may be shifting on that a little bit as people start to open their eyes to, well, maybe other leagues can be good. And maybe if you lose 2 in a league and you're a good team, maybe it just means the league is pretty good and pretty even. We'll see how things play out in the future. But great game. Congrats, Indiana. Really happy for the Hoosiers. Was cool to see that. Kurt Signetti in all his glory. The Google thing. Yep, he won. Just great stuff.
The beer from Upland, it's been great. No, it's just a wild story. And I actually got something in my inbox. Normally, I don't, spend too much money, but that dive that he did into the end zone, like that made me jump out of my seat in terms of like, oh my God, this is something that's like any given Sunday right now. So just wild for that. So who knows where he's going to go in terms of the NFL draft and what he's going to do in there. And I love Andy's take. It's like the howdy doody stuff isn't going to work in, an NFL locker room if he's just having that back and forth with somebody in his teammates in Vegas, but who thought it would work in Indiana? So who knows?
It sort of worked for Tim Tebow. He played in the NFL, took the Broncos to a playoff win. I don't know.
Yeah, no, it's look, I'm rooting for the guy. It's a little much at times, but you can't. I think he is authentic through and through, even though a lot of people like he looks like a wax figure at times. But I know Jack, I was texting with Grossman. Patty Ice was having his IU moment. So alumni of the station, they were shining.
I texted both of those guys after the game was over. I need to try to find this because it was just an entertaining text thread, both probably feeling pretty good. I texted them, congrats, boys, at 11:30 p.m. Jack was the first one to get back at 12:42 a.m. Thanks, Nick. Incredible. Just unbelievable. Patty Ice said just spent $200 on gear. Shut down the bar tonight. Did shots with some folks from Terre Haute. Probably the best night of my life. Just great stuff.
No, I could just about it. Both of those texts you just read, I had their voice in my head, if that makes any sense. Like I had Jack reading, it was like Morgan Freeman voice, and then Patty Ice like, bro, this was the greatest night ever.
Here was the best one from Patty Ice, and I feel confident in sharing this because I doubt anyone from NASCAR is going to be tuned into us. He said, I did 7 shots after the game and have to be at production days for NASCAR at 8 a.m.
It's NASCAR. Lean into it. They got the Daytona 500 coming up. It's prep season, David. I love that so much. Good for Patty Ice. Good for him. Shine, young star, shine. Oh,
just phenomenal stuff.
It's
Great
stuff. Things that you got the Cubes on there buying his championship. It's just a crazy, crazy scene up in Bloomington. So let's see if this is a one-hit wonder or if they can repeat it. That's the next step in this. And I know there was some talking points.
They're already. I mean, they're 2 for 2 in making the playoffs with Signetti. So, I'm a believer. I think he knows what he's doing.
I think they know what
they're doing.
And you got to be, and making. I'll dive into this a little bit more with Sofro in the next hour, but I mean, it gives you hope. That's kind of the thing where it's like it can flip when a switch like that. So, should be fun. All right, back to some college basketball. I kind of glossed over this too in some of my notes. I didn't. The terms of I want to get this. Jeff Borzello put this out yesterday too. So, you got was it Keaton Wagler 46 points against Purdue. And it's per ESPN research. This is the first day in the AP history to feature multiple freshmen scoring 40 points against ranked opponents. The other one was Kingston Fleming's 42 points at Texas Tech. So historic day for a historically good freshman class. So we were talking about Mikel Brown. Everybody's talking about the Boozer kid, Peterson, AJ DeBansa. Like this sport this year is littered with it. And I want to get your thoughts about this before we finish up the first hour. Bringing it back, it was a topic on game day. I know you were on the call, but the Alabama stuff that's out there with the G League player trying to come back. It's just a wild scene. And Jay Williams, a lot of times he doesn't make the best points, but I felt as if this is one that I think he got right, where it's like, everyone's talking about all these G League players coming in there. Well, look at the top. Like, it's still the best players are this freshman class right now in terms of, like, if you're looking at it from like an NBA mock draft. But it is funny. Fanta was on with Andy earlier this week, and he was great. Like, I encourage you to go back, listen to it. He's a star to begin with, and I love that guy. But he basically was saying, you're like the guy in college showing up to a high school party. And it's like the never graduate component. But it's funny because that's
making a lot more money to do it in this instance.
So what I know I've kind of was all over the place with that, but what did you make of that story out there? And just, I mean, it feels like death taxes and us talking about how incompetent the NCAA is year in and year out.
I don't know if this is NCAA incompetence, though. I mean, there's some stuff that's out there about that judge that granted the stay to allow him to play, apparently.
The donor for Bama?
Apparently a big Bama donor. So if you can find a judge, which a lot of these places will be able to do, that's a big supporter to make it happen. My big takeaway is that everyone bashed, and I'm not saying the NCAA has been right about a lot of things or on the money with a lot of the rules, and there were a lot of non-common sense rules in play, but everyone bashed them over the years so much, and then they started to lose in court, lose legal battles, and a lot of people were happy about that, and more power to the players and all that, which is all well and good, but at the end of the day, this is what happens. If the organization consistently gets ruled against in court, what do you do? Like, how do you enforce any rules? And I think we all understand that this is stupid, that a guy who was on a two-way deal, who knew what the rules were in 2023 when he was putting his name into the draft almost 3 years later, it didn't work out as he wanted to in the NBA. So, hey, let's go back and play college basketball and get paid probably more than I'm making as a professional. It obviously shouldn't happen. But when the organization has been sort of clipped at every turn in trying to make these rulings and judgments, and certainly some of it of their own making, because some of the rules have been stupid. But when even the stuff that's not necessarily stupid doesn't get upheld ever, like, this is what you're going to get. This is what people wanted and argued for a long time. Players should be paid. There should be less rules. There should be less structure. The NCAA stinks. Here we are. This is life without any sort of governing body or enforcement body, and I'm not so sure that it's a great thing.
Yeah, it's just a crazy story. And I know this one's going to get up, obviously, the London Johnson stuff here a little bit different, but still kind of in the same, same avenue of how it feels just a little gross and not the college basketball that you grew up enjoying. And even for me, like without at the risk of sounding like Tom Izzo, it just feels different and gross. And it just feels like you're that loser that wants to go back to high school and relive your glory days. And I know and I hate being that way, but that's what I completely agree with John Fanta on that. I completely agree.
It does feel a little bit like, I do think London Johnson obviously is a little bit of a different scenario because Bediako could have stayed in college and could have put his name in the NBA draft without hiring an agent and doing all those things, but went through with it and made the decision to forego his college eligibility. And London Johnson, went the G League route. And I think obviously that was probably thinking that you were foregoing your college eligibility, but you never actually played college and never made the decision to come out. I'm not sure about either, but I know one is very different from the other. Like Bediako was there. Hey, here you go. You can make this decision and keep college eligibility, test the waters, or you can go this way and lose your college eligibility. He chose option B to lose the college eligibility, and then now, almost 3 years later, conveniently they're able to make it happen. Full hearings coming up on Tuesday, so I guess he's gonna get one game, and then we'll find out if he gets to play in any others.
Yeah, it's a crazy, crazy time with that. He's Nick. I'm Phil. Justin Sofaro producing today's affair. Appreciate that. We're all remote today, so apologies for not taking many calls for that. Appreciate you making us a part of your Sunday morning and getting ready for the AFC and NFC championship game. Should be some fun ones as well. We'll dive into that here in a second. I had something else. Oh, yeah, so I was going to ask you. You were alluding to the Louisville-Cal game. So it has on the ESPN app, that's a 1 o'clock game. So is that Eastern Standard Time? So they're starting that at what time would that be? 10 a.m.?
It's wrong on the app. It's a 2 o'clock Eastern game. It's an 11 a.m. Pacific game.
That's not terrible. Okay,
next Sunday in Berkeley. The Stanford game's 8 Eastern on Thursday night. Cards dominant win over Boston College yesterday. Did have a season high 21 turnovers, which Jeff Walz was not happy with, but got to use everybody available and really spread out the minutes. And McKinley Randolph led the Cards 13 points. Now 7 different players have led the team in scoring over the last 7 games, which I think is a really impressive thing that speaks to the depth that this team has. And you just kind of have to guard everybody because they're all capable of scoring. So nice win. Louisville 19-3. They won 12 straight. They're 9-0 in the ACC for the first time since the 2021 season, with the big road trip out west coming up. Couple of big games. Stanford, very likely an NCAA tournament team. That will be a very tough game on Thursday. And then obviously going to Cal Sunday will be tough. There haven't been many teams to go out there and win too. So that is going to be a very difficult road trip. But we'll see what the Cards can do. They've had a lot of good wins. That win at NC State last Sunday in overtime. Talked to you before that game. What a gutty win that was on the road. Amari Berry was incredible with 33 points and 12 boards. And Louisville couldn't hit a shot from outside for the biggest part of that game, and then finally came through when they needed to. That was an incredible win. Won at South Bend and at NC State last week, the first ACC team to ever do that in the same week. Only the third time a team has beaten those two teams on the road in the ACC in the same year. Louisville's done it twice now, but doesn't happen very often to go into those two environments and find ways to win. It's been a really impressive team, and now a day off today in the snow. Jeff Walz, by the way, I think he was being serious, offering up. He's got a new snowblower and is offering up for a charitable donation to the organization of his choice. You can have him come out and clear your driveway. Just social media DM, or his email's right there on the website. You can look that up and put in a request. Needs a picture of the driveway, though.
Sofro, you need to do that. You need to be sitting there with like your bourbon or Mai Tai in your garage and letting Jeff Walls, shovel and blow your driveway. That would be perfect. That's ESPN Louisville plus content you're always clamoring for, Sofro.
Hey, I'm down to do it. I'll sit up on my front porch, EL plus, everything's ready to go, and just record the head basketball coach out there shoveling my driveway.
Gotta make sure you're ready to donate. Just make sure you donate some money. Gotta have some money ready to donate.
How much? What's the minimum? Is there a minimum amount? Because I don't know. Your boy's wasted a lot of it on the stuff I use for EO Plus.
Yeah, fair enough. Expense at the kin. Yeah, get the credit card.
In that cave right there. Yes, but you'd have to talk to him about that. But I think he was being pretty serious. So the opportunity to have him come out and clear your drive should you need it. Check him out on social media and the email. I think
all right.
It could be like a cameo for clearing snow.
Oh, speaking of Walls, that made me think of Stillman. I meant to send this to you. Andy and Nick played this. Did you see he made Outkick the coverage for his take on the attractiveness of NFL coaches? Did you see this?
I did. I didn't dig into it, but I kind of saw the gist.
Nick, I don't do this often. And if I could share it now, I would, but I know we're inching close to the top of the hour, so I'm going to do it off the break. And Nick and Andy have played it. It's some of his best work.
It's got to be.
It's incredible. So speaking of NFL games, your Pats, they have a big one coming up today against the Broncos. So before the top of the hour, we got a few more minutes. Who you like in that one, as well as the Niners and Rams? Seahawks and Rams. Apologies.
Seahawks and Rams, yeah. I think the Patriots are going to a Super Bowl. Jared Stidham, former Pat, starting at quarterback for the Broncos. Broncos have a really good defense, but I think the Pats and Drake May will find a way to win that game in Denver, and I think they'll play the Seahawks. I just that defense is playing incredible right now, and just can't pick against the way they have dominated of late. So I think it's Pats Seahawks in the Super Bowl, a rematch from a decade-ish ago.
Yeah, it was a Marshawn Lynch, but God damn, I can't believe that has been freaking a decade ago. Time is going way too fast on that.
By the way,
they're going to get a massive number, by the way. My God.
Well, yeah, everyone's snowed in. It's going to be absolutely incredible. And a lot of sports have been jostled around to now not conflict to segment the audience at all. You're going to be having everybody tuned into those two games. This whole thing might be a big conspiracy from the NFL to raise the number. But last week, we were flying back from Raleigh after the Louisville win and went to overtime. And Matt Paris, big Patriots fan as well, the U of L women's basketball SID. So we took off after the Drake May touchdown pass to Booty, the incredible catch there in the end zone, like the one-armed catch. We saw that, made it a 2-score game, and then had no idea if they held on until we landed. So it was pretty electric to turn on the phones as we were landing back in Louisville to see that the Pats had in fact advanced to the AFC title game.
A walk back in time, as it's almost like you had to wait till the newspaper the next day. They look at you,
Pretty much. What kind of society are we living in? No Wi-Fi on the plane, so that was wild times. We were locked in until early in the fourth, until it was time for takeoff.
That's so funny you said that, because I had a question about some tickets, and I was asking Blank and Baker, and I was like, Double D's, traveling right now, and Blank scoffed at me. He's like, "Huh, Dieter pays for Wi-Fi." And I was like, shocked. I mean, he's Vegas. That's completely on me. How could I forget about that?
Well, depending on the airline, you don't necessarily even have to pay. You can. I mean, if you're if you got status, you can get that stuff for free.
And trust me, he has status. Reminder: Sofro tonight. EL Plus on YouTube, Facebook, not Instagram, Twitter. Maybe he has it on Instagram. I don't think he does, but we'll get your takes out on there. And reminder: we got you covered with the NFL, AFC, and NFC championships. If you do need to drive out, be safe, but keep it locked to your sports leader. Nick, I know you got to get away, buddy. We'll connect the next week, I think, maybe, and try to do the show from the West Coast. The Wi-Fi better be impeccable out there.
7 to 9 Pacific time next Sunday. We'll give it a go. We'll see
It's
what
all
we can
good.
make happen.
You want to sleep in, and it's okay. I want to hear about your Alcatraz trip, though. So I want to.
I fully intend to be part of the show next week. I just don't know exactly what our schedule is, but I'll fill you in.
Fill a little space from Alcatraz. Do a little selfie there. That would be wonderful. That we can use maybe on EL Plus. All right.
What time's the anti-ice the protest? Which one are you attending?
I'm sure there might be a selection of them. We are. We're not going to Minneapolis though. We're going to Palo Alto and Berkeley.
Out Nick the coverage. All right, boys. We will have a great, safe trip. Stay warm. Enjoy the time. Hopefully nobody's power goes out. And safe travels out there. Buddy, enjoy the Warriors and Pistons. I'm banking on you to go to that.
I'm really hoping to. I'm hoping I can come on next week and say, yes, that was a great experience. We'll see.
Buy a Steph Curry jersey, and maybe I want Draymond Green to get upset at somebody and punt the basketball and just hit you in the head. Like I
wouldn't be sitting that close. You'd have to punt that thing way up there, I'm guessing, especially if I have to pay for my own ticket. I will not be anywhere near the court. True story, though, U of L women's basketball, I was not there because it came a day later. Did attend a game when they went to Memphis last year. The Grizzlies played the Warriors, and Steph Curry had one of the worst games maybe the worst game of his career, actually.
That's perfection. All right. Well, hopefully that negativity doesn't follow you to San Francisco in the Bay Area. Appreciate it. All right. Have safe travels out there. Stay warm, buddy. We'll talk to you next week, man.
All right. Going to shovel. Everyone's be safe.
All right. Sofaro and I got you for the second hour. Keep it locked here. Your sports leader, ESPN 680 1057.
Welcome back to the Sunday Morning Hangover, presented by the Louisville Bats on ESPN 680 and 105.7. Now, here's Nick Curran and Phil Baker.
All right, welcome back. Hour number 2, Sunday Morning Hangover here on your sports leader, ESPN 680 105.7. Appreciate Nick Curran battling the snow against the Weinberg and Jay Cardosi's forecast and coming to do the first hour with us. But we got the man, the myth, the legend, Justin Sofaro, who could, he's surviving the snow as well. So hopefully everyone's doing okay on your end. Justin Sofaro, how are you?
How's it going? Just a couple months pregnant, or actually I'm a few months pregnant right now. So, just trying to weather this storm and, hoping to be good and, see my Kanai here again soon.
Well, that's the goal with that. So, yeah, we spent a ton on the first hour, me and Nick, reacting to the Louisville game against BC, Kentucky at Ole Miss. So if you missed anything from that, head over to the podcast center right here on your sports leader, ESPNLouisville.com, the ESPN Louisville app. Reminder, order in, Beardo's Pizza. They got you covered. George Timmering and Company. Keep it locked over there. George Timmering on Market. I know they opened up early yesterday for the doubleheader of the games, so you have that. But then also, I'm sure some of the locations are open as well, or we'll be back at it, during these icy and snowy conditions as we're trying to navigate the winter storm and hopefully get back to some normalcy here coming up here in the next few days. 437-9680 is the UPS Jobs text. I'm probably not going to take any calls today. We're both remote today, so appreciate James Black and Andy helping produce today's efforts, and Nick joining for the first hour. So ton of basketball talk. We'll dive a little bit more into that maybe during what else is going on, but wanted to put a bow on the season. I know you've talked about this a lot on Justin Sofaro's ESPN Louisville Plus videos that he's been putting out there, not on the Justin Sofaro network, but
it's my network. Nobody else's. Don't even think about going on here.
Yours, damn it. So we could react to what the Indiana winning the national championship that means here locally with Louisville and Kentucky and expectations around that. The college football playoff, not expanding. They're just going to keep it the same for the 12-team playoff. So you have that out there. Also can dive into some other newsy nuggets out there. But Sofaro, man, tell people what you got going on ESPN Louisville Plus. Like and subscribe and all that fun stuff, and where they can find you on Twitter with all your hot takes on who impregnated you.
Yeah, we've been doing a lot over there. I've been actually really, really excited about seeing the traction that we've gotten over on EL Plus, and I appreciate everybody that has decided to venture out instead of just doing the terrestrial radio thing or doing it on their phone. Check in YouTube, youtube.com/ESPN Louisville. We've got all kinds of content. I try to put out somewhat regular. I mean, there's videos on there every day. You're going to get reels of highlights from the best things you've seen on the station, shows you may have missed, the best of the best. I try to put it out there. Diener, Andy, Strebel, even the 93.9 stuff, Ennis, all those guys. Phil, you've been on there as well, obviously. Actually, some of your reels have taken off as of late. Some of the hot takes, if you
hear
will.
that, damn it. Or the Nick Curran, the Nick Curran takes, the toasty takes from Nick Curran. That's what gets the algorithm going. So, yes, I know you're doing hard work on that. So, yeah, well, we may dabble in this a little bit more as we're trying to venture out and try to get everything from, obviously our bread and butter is the terrestrial side, but Justin's passionate about the video side of these things. And as we try to do more digital, definitely want to do that out there. And especially on a day like today where everyone's kind of bunkering down, it's a perfect day to do that. So appreciate Sofaro joining us for the second hour. Like I said, you can interact with the station at ESPN 680 on Twitter /X. He's Justin Sofaro on Twitter, Nick Curran 35 on Twitter. I am Phil __ Baker, still
real
working
quick, if you don't
on
mind
that.
me.
Okay, so
if you don't mind me
yes,
plugging.
please go ahead.
I'm just going to go ahead and throw this.
Yes.
If you're watching this on the virtual stream, I'm going to throw this up there. It's just a little after dark. We do after darks every Sunday at 9 p.m. It's usually myself and one Anna Tarullo, and I know there's lots of jokes there that Andy likes to make, but she and I have been doing that right now. She is, I think, still out of it. She's recovering. We wish her well, and hopefully she'll be back in the next couple weeks, but we'll be talking about all things cards, cats, everything that happens, but make sure you tune into that when you get a chance. Thank you.
There it is. Yes, no, doing good work on that. So I know you get passionate about that. Obviously, did the Kentucky postgame show on EL Plus yesterday as well. Okay, so some newsy things that have kind of flown under the radar while you're gathered around the fireplace and listening to terrestrial radio or listening on your smartphone app and the ESPN Louisville app. Brett McMurphy putting out there that the college football playoff expected to remain at 12. Obviously, this is kind of like an arms race. I love like everything about this just because it was like, the SEC wants this, the Big Ten wants this, and then it was just like the ACC and the Big 12 had no say in this, and that's so indicative of just the college football landscape out there. But I want to put this a bow around everything that transpired with Indiana and winning the national championship and the massive number that Indiana and Miami got. And I heard Blankenbaker and Creighton talking about this a little bit on Friday. I mean, I think it's a blueprint to showcase like, hey, these non-traditional basketball powers are out there. Arab football powers can be in the game for that. And I think that's something that a lot of people didn't think, 48 months ago, quite frankly, and trying to think about what that could look like. And Indiana even having a seat at the table, that's crazy to me. So, I mean, with Indiana winning this and just what it was a crazy Disney-like, second half for Fernando Mendoza in his Heisman moment, it felt like you have a chance now. Now, I understand not everybody's got the cubes and a billionaire that can help buy these teams. But, I mean, I go back to this and like the JMU roster that Signetti brought over as well. Yeah. I think it gives you hope. I'm not going to sit here and say Louisville and Kentucky and other similar programs of their ilk could be in contention for this, but it at least gives you hope now versus just seeing the Georgias, LSU, Bamas, and Notre Dame's, Ohio State's year in, year out, and knowing it was going to be some combination of that. That's what I think gives you a little bit more hope. And, McMurphy put out there for the 12-team playoff saying that, the Big Ten wants the 24-team model. The other 8 conferences, along with Notre Dame, want a 16-team playoff. The Big Ten has expressed some willingness to move to 16-team model in 26, but there was assurances that they would expand to 2024 in the coming year. So this just kind of feels like, we try to make all these commissioners the smartest people in the room. I think they're just toddlers throwing temper tantrums. And just if you're not going to help me out here, I'm not going to help you out there. I think it's nothing more, nothing less.
Well, it's the interesting part of this to me. There's a couple parts to it. Obviously, there is the new crop of teams that are going to be the haves and have-nots. All these schools, we talk about Indiana, we talk about, even though they didn't make the playoff, Vanderbilt, and these schools that have this wealth of money, this treasure chest of riches that they haven't been able to use until just recently, now that it's quote-unquote legal, even though, other schools have been, they've been doing it for years. What's interesting to me, too, is to look at Indiana, and I really, I believe in, it's hard at this point. It's hard to not believe in Signetti and what he's doing there. But you look at the team that he had. A lot of that talent was, very few of those players were made up of 5-star talent. I think, did they even have a 5-star player on their roster?
No. I think that was the graphic that was out there with Miami and
it was like 5 or 7 4-stars, right?
Yeah. And I think that's like what's so crazy about this is, yes, look, I don't want to make it seem like JMU and some of the guys that he brought over were all core pieces of what he was trying to do. However, it makes you think that you can win through some pieces in the transfer portal. Quite frankly, 40 did a piece on this. Like, they cleaned a lot of house on that IU team. And obviously Fernando Mendoza wasn't, that this is not going to fall under Mario Cristobal, but good old Manny Diaz didn't offer him a walk-on opportunity for his dream school. And obviously, that's going to be in the categories of what if for Miami fans down there. But yeah, I'm with you. It showcases that, like, in the transfer portal, like, you can find some talent that is the makeup of what you're trying to do.
And while I completely believe, I think he is the new Saban at this point. It feels that way. It feels like he's going to be that next guy to somewhat put together a juggernaut of a team. But I think next year will be very telling moving forward, just especially because you are going to be replacing so many of those pieces too being from SMU. But are they going to go out there? Will he do the same? And I'd imagine with better talent that he'd be able to continue, having this train rolling. But it just makes me wonder, moving on from the guys that he kind of knew what he was working with, how's he going to do with the new quarterback? How's he going to do with Hoover, the Furry? How's Furry Man going to do, when his time at Indiana?
The Furry!
I don't care. I don't want that story to die. Even though people want to say that he's not a furry and that was all made up, don't kill my happiness. Don't kill my joy. Like, I wanted him to be at Louisville just so that way, somebody be like, I would go out there. Maybe I would do my Who Impregnated Me with me being in a furry suit. Maybe we move it over to the football field. I don't know. There's no telling what could happen. But I thought about buying a Cardinal outfit. You could buy the old U of L Cardinal. I think maybe he's a little bit more of a wolf man than he is a bird. I don't know. That's just sorry.
Yeah. Oh no, I don't care. I love it. No, that's humorous to me from the standpoint of, that's the next chapter in the story with Cignetti. Is this the, a one-hit wonder with the special pieces that he has around everything in terms of what he brought from JMU at that? And I know this is something that Taylor Lynch has been passionate about. I think you made a reel about this that popped up out there. He's not happy with the coverage that Indiana's getting from the local teams. And this is what's been conveyed to me. And I don't want to get like too radio nerdy and terms that this are smarter people than I. So we always, I think they're funny. Anyone that's listening, they probably get these in the mail, these Nielsen rating cards. Have you ever gotten one of those in your mail? Like where you have to fill out with the archaic thing? Okay, so I think they're BS, to be honest with you. I think something through streaming and pinpointing devices that are on there is a much more scientific approach versus a guy that's, kind of combined us with our direct competitor and writes, 93.9 Ville on there. Like that's just me. But it's funny because do you know the second most listened to county according to Nielsen is in ours? I mean, obviously Jefferson County is number one, but the second most listened to.
I'm guessing
Go ahead.
It's something to do with Indiana. Is that right?
It fluctuates between Clark and Floyd. Okay. And I think, as much as Taylor, and look, Taylor's getting so much run this week. I love it. This is great content for him around this. I think, 40 did something about talking about the coverage in Southern Indiana. I know Lachlan had to rebuttal some of the things that were out there. And I know you don't have to like it, but with the massive amount of alumni that Indiana has, and they may be sleeping in hibernation in their cave. I mean, to be frank, but when you can't ignore them and what they're doing, like maybe it's recency bias. I don't think it's hyperbolic. It's one of the craziest stories in college football history. Like we joke about that with Nick and I about how they're always going to be 5-7 and 6-6, like nothing less, nothing more, and that was being generous. And I think when you take this and run with it and look what's happened Dieter bet on this and said they doubled the win total. He had over under 8.5 and they doubled the amount of wins. It hasn't been something that's been done since the 1800s. So I think it's a crazy story. I think it's wild how it's transpired, but you can't ignore the story as little as, IU makes it on the radar here locally a lot of times, at least when they're in the national championship and they go undefeated and you get a second half and a play like that for Fernando Mendoza, if I can talk, that is wild. And you can't ignore it.
Well, I enjoy the local aspect of this. I think I don't know that we're completely missing it, but for years, how many years is Andy Sweeney and everybody else, we've always made the joke. I make the joke on ESPN Louisville Plus. Make sure you like and subscribe. I always make the joke on there that we talk Cards, Cats, and not at all Hoosiers. And I even said it for the longest time. I'm like, I'm not talking Indiana. I don't want to talk Indiana. I'm not going to follow Indiana because there was no reason to, and B, we're just not going to talk about them. And now, and I even said it, like there were a couple of videos where I was like, man, Cignetti might make us do it. He might make us do it. And now you have to pay attention to Indiana football this is why it's going to be a litmus test to see if he can keep it up and if he can keep that thing rolling and keep it going, because at this point, Indiana is obviously winning a national title. They're on the map now. They're going to be a story next year regardless of what they do. But I think moving forward now, it's also funny too because of what we've had here at the station before I was here, and actually the reason I even got a chance is because Jack Grossman left. You had a couple guys who were Indiana, Pat, love you, Pat. I don't remember him loving up, the Hoosiers as much when he was here. But I do remember him talking a little bit about, his time.
Jack pushed everybody out of the way and said, "This is my lane, damn it. I'm going to do an IU post-game show. I'm going to do that." Easy would always dabble in it, Big Easy for that. And Patty, I'll say this. Patty did bring it up occasionally that he wanted to, talk more about it. It's like, they're going to Huber's, bro. Like, we got to go to the winery. Mike Woodson could be speaking there. Yep. And he would always do that. Or Tom Allen's going to be in Southern Indiana. We got to go to an autograph signing. But yeah, you're right. You can't ignore it.
But we've also had, like, I think two, and I remember I worked back in the day when I was in college at U of L. I worked at B-Dubs, and there was an Indiana fan. And I think this has been the Indiana fan base for so long. There was this time where it was like the enemy of my enemy is my friend. So Indiana and Louisville fans got along a lot together. Heck, you see Pat and Grossman being example 1A of like half of them like became Louisville fans. They became mixed just because of their combined disdain for John Calipari and Kentucky and everything that they're doing there. But it's kind of interesting to me now. You start to see once they're going to start getting a little bit of gumption, they're starting to get a little bit of that that arrogance that's coming out that I did not expect. And I'm interested to see how that's going to play here locally as well. And then too, I even thought about again, just like sometimes with me struggling to talk about some of the Kentucky stuff from a passion standpoint, because I'm not passionate. I'm passionate about my team. I can talk about what's happening. I do wonder if, Indiana's going to be a big enough, basketball still doing their thing to keep us from ever really having to talk too much Indiana. But football-wise, where it has to be like regular content in this area. I'm sorry, that's the landscape. Kentucky, Louisville, and now Indiana back on the map.
Yeah, and it's funny because I know John Fanta was on with Sweeney a couple days ago and Nick on the Take 12 to 3 on ESPN 680, and basically, saying that IU got it wrong with Mike Woodson, but he thinks, Darren DeVries is a good coach. It's yet to be seen, but when you have the resources, and this is the whole thing, I mean, we just went through it with, Mark Pope and Pat Kelsey when they decided to make changes at Louisville, Kentucky. The sport, in my opinion, is littered with competent coaches that, some separate themselves a little bit along the way in terms of the great ones from good to great. And I think it's kind of like a three-pronged thing that you have to have an administration that believes in you and the support now from the donor aspect and NIL to put together a team that makes you compete. And you can't be a buffoon and an idiot about some of these things. I think Darren DeVries, you don't know a ton about him, and I think that's okay. The same thing with Signetti and IU. I just think it's a landscape of the college athletics in this. Just because you don't get the Scott Drews, the Danny Hurleys of the world, there are competent coaches at a smaller level that may not excite you and may look like police sketches whenever you're, thinking of the names that are out there and you don't know anything about them. But this is something that's out there. By the way, going back to the Pat Kelsey search, Jack Grossman texted me, our boy Josh Schertz, top 25, 18-1, I think 19-1 right now. I want to say, I didn't look at that. I'm just saying, and he said top 30
for so long.
Look,
and you were like, it's gonna be Schertz. I heard Schertz, and I was, I was getting there, and
I'm just saying. Yeah, exactly. But I say that from the standpoint, St. Louis, not the same caliber job as Louisville, obviously, but a top. The sport, it's from guys that you don't know much about. You could be pleasantly surprised, so just keep that in the back pocket on that. He's Justin Sofro. I'm Phil Baker. Sunday morning hangover. Hopefully everyone's staying safe. Be sure to get off the roads if you don't have to be and gather around. God, the NFL is going to get a massive number today, by the way. I mean just the amount of people that are going to be cooped up and watching that. By the way, if you want to listen to that broadcast via Westwood One, that coverage will be right here on ESPN Louisville, all sticks. So you got the AFC Championship game, Broncos and Patriots. That should be a fun one. That's 2:00 coverage begins. ESPN 680, 105.7, and 93.9 the Ville via Westwood One. NFC Championship between Seahawks and Rams around 6:00. So we'll switch over to that. And that coverage presented locally by our good friends at Bearno's Pizza. You got Baptist Health and Bud Light, amongst others on that front. 437-9680 is the UPS Jobs text line. We can maybe dive into some of those texts coming up here in a bit. But yeah, I mean, I think, to bring it back with the Louisville component before we get the break here in a bit in Kentucky, I mean, a common theme now is like, what now with Jeff Brom? You've been right there. I know the graphic's been out there with the head-to-heads with Mario Cristobal, who played in the national championship game. It's been out there with against, the national championship winning coach and Dabo Swinney. But what does it look like moving forward in terms of expectations now that we know that it's going to be locked in at 12 teams and at least for, 2026? Are you and especially it looks like by all accounts, I'm not going to sit here and fake take it with what they're doing in the transfer portal. It looks like on paper, getting back Isaac Brown, getting the Ohio State transfer quarterback, bringing in some key pieces from around the country that you feel like you lacked in it, but you still don't have a defensive coordinator. That's something that I know is kind of out there.
Yeah.
I mean, what are your expectations, at least on the Louisville side, for what you're expecting for this team in 2026?
I mean, I guess right now we're being sold that they got the money they needed, that he wanted to invest in the portal. They got the guys that they went after. I mean, he initially brought on Keenholz, and then as soon as he was there, he impressed him enough that this is the guy that he wanted to ride or die with. And it still kind of makes me nervous. We never heard anything, right, about a second quarterback ever coming in? Like, I know you got Briggs Cherry and all that, but, like, no other.
See, this is I'm with you on this because this is the narrative that was out there after Fernando Mendoza apparently was interested in Louisville, and I think there was a holdup of whether or not his brother could walk on. And I mean, this is people, not me, but that would be closer to the recruiting circles that know that they didn't want to be left at the altar. Which I get, but it's also if you're not 100% sold on this guy, and maybe you should wait for that. So
yeah,
it feels like. I understand why some people are a little reluctant after the Miller Moss experience, but
it was the one thing I asked for. That's all I asked. I just said we went through a whole season having nobody to back up the guy, at least to sustain him when he just breaks down like Miller Moss did. He was done. That's my biggest complaint, and it's something that hasn't been fulfilled. Maybe they have confidence in Briggs Cherry. Obviously, they don't have any confidence in any of the guys that were remaining in that quarterback room. I don't know. To me, that's a question. I know your initial question was about my expectation in the season as a whole.
Well, I mean but I think that goes into it though. No. I mean, I don't think you did. I think that's a component of my question to you is look, now you had the Jack Plummer experience of year one, got you to the ACC championship, a little rocky at times. Tyler Shuck looking like he's, going to be the real deal in the NFL, was the real deal here at Louisville. So you got Miller Moss, Miller Moss, and then now I think this is going to kind of be the baseline of the narrative out there is that Brom is the QB whisperer, and if he's all in on this guy, and look, I mean, by all accounts, all the Ohio State guys said Keenholz was right there and was battling for that starting position there, and I think that's got to make you feel a little bit better. I want to be swimming in the waters of, the Ohio States of the world. That makes me feel better. And I know we got the sticker shock from the USC and the Holiday Bowl and what Miller Moss did there, but it's so more often than not, I feel like a lot of those guys tend to hit, I say reluctantly, but it's the lowering the shoulder and taking the hits and again, granted, this is the TikTokification and the highlight reel era where we haven't seen all the other things why he didn't get the starting job. It makes you feel a little bit better and a little bit more confident that this could potentially be something here in the years to come this upcoming year that would make you feel a little bit better.
Well, it's also just to me, it's give me, and I'm not asking, I don't need two, 5-star quarterbacks coming in. But what I mean is at least give me a mid-level transfer guy that you could bring in for, a affordable guy who's going to be comfortable being, kind of a backup role, making some money off of it. But then just in case in those scenarios where it plays out like it did with Miller Moss, if there's injuries, if there's whatever happened, that we know that we can rely on him. I'm guessing, again, I go back to it, but it has to be that they have confidence or they have expectation that Briggs Cherry is going to be that guy. Don't love it, though, with him being a freshman quarterback. I have no expectations of him coming in and being able to do it right away. As the whole team goes, it's interesting, though, because now with Louisville football, you're seeing a lot of these, way too early preseason rankings coming out, given the way the transfer portal has played out. And they're, right there in that top 15-ish ranking. And I think right now you're going to have that pressure. Pressure has to be on for Jeff Brom to go out there and make the playoff this year, especially with it being a 12-team playoff. I'm always I'm a pessimist more than I am an optimist. So it's I can put the pressure so I put the pressure on, but then at the same time, I don't really almost expect it until you prove to me that you're able to do it. And right now, Jeff Brom hasn't proven that he's going to be able to get it done in the end. Again, Andy brought up earlier in the season about the idea that maybe just because some of the funds not being there, that's the reason why some of the the playmakers weren't there as a whole. The defense kind of stepped up, but then the offense took a little bit of a hit this season. So that's a scenario where I kind of look at it and say, maybe now with a lot of those weapons you're bringing in, Richardson and guys like that, they got him plenty of guys to throw it to. I'll see it when I believe it. But I guess you can say it's playoff or bust, but there's been a lot of busts.
But I was going to say, but in the same breath, we say that a lot, but what's going to happen? You know what I mean? Like that's kind of my thing of people, what's going to playoff or bust? And what is that indicative of not going to get an extension, negotiation, NIL? By the way, Big Dog retweeting the Crafts from his wedding. A couple of people were speculating that are the Kelly and Joe Kraft donating to Louisville Athletics. Let's do this. On the other side, that's a tease, as they say in the business. Quick break. On the other side, we'll dive into some other nonsense to get you ready for the NFL games today. Maybe a little bracketology. What Lenardi, if he has Wi-Fi in his bunker, we can dive into that and talk about what Bracket Matrix has it as of this morning. He's Justin Sofro. I'm Phil Baker. Nick Curran stepping away, battling the snow. Weinberg, he's not doing the KSR meteorologist predictions. I love that. He won't give me a Super Bowl prediction. I love that. But fear not, we'll keep you warm and toasty here on your sports leader, ESPN 680 1057.
Welcome back to the Sunday Morning Hangover, presented by the Louisville Bats on ESPN 680 and 105.7. Now, here's Nick Curran and Phil Baker.
All right, welcome back. Last segment on this Snowmageddon or Snowmageddon. I can't even say it how Tanner says it here on ESPN Louisville, ESPN 680, 105.7. Farmagedon, Snowmageddon. It just sounds so incorrect when I say it. He's Justin Sofer. I'm Phil Baker. Nick Curran stepping aside just for, the second hour. Get you set in this Snowmageddon. Hopefully everyone is staying safe if you're out there. 437-9680 is the UPS Jobs text line. Reminder, if you're driving around, we got you covered. Wall-to-wall action, the AFC and NFC championship. If you have to get out and about, hopefully you are being safe. Be sure to give us a follow on Twitter at ESPN 680. He's at Justin Sofro. Nick Curran 35, and I'm Phil __ Baker. Fun show thus far, reacting to Louisville, Kentucky, taking on Ole Miss and Virginia Tech, as well as some other nonsense along the way. How much have you been following the meteorologist stuff with KSR? Have you been following this in the local charity in Weinberg, big time in them, which I just absolutely love?
I try to follow KSR minimally, but it's come up. Like they're like my For You page has said you need to see, Matt Jones taking it to Weinberg and then Weinberg giving it back. Like, so it's come up. Like I said, I try to avoid Matty Bangs when I can, but it's hard to right now.
I love that because all these slides that Matt's getting, he comes up right after us. That's one of my favorite things that we do sneaky here at the station. State of the emergency declared in Louisville ahead of this storm. That was from that was on Friday. So hopefully everything is okay on that. But look, Weinberg's going to Weinberg. This is his Super Bowl. He's I'm not here for you. I'm not here to be your jester, damn it. It's going to charity. I'll find my own charity. That's what he said. And Weinberg's going to do that.
Can I make an admission to you?
Yes, please.
I feel like you may not be happy with me with this, but I've taken a beating from Weinberg once. He called me out. He publicly shamed me. He quote tweeted me and shamed me for, I guess, the joke of I think it was like a hurricane in Jamaica or something like that. And he's like, there are millions of people that are going to be suffering.
Isn't that what they called you? Isn't that what they called you in college? Hurricane Jamaica?
Yes, that was me. But he so after that, I think I don't know if I can go back to local weathermen. I've been kind of committed to I'm a YouTube guy. Ryan Hall, y'all, because Andy talked about him the other day. He's like, "Who's this?" And I'm like, "Dude, he's got 4 or 5 million subscribers, but this guy, he kills it almost every time." He says, "Okay." He says it's likely that we're getting a foot long. We're getting a foot.
ZC, you hear that? ZC's concerned about this. ZC, what I said I told you today, and then you and Nick, I was like, hey, we got to be remote today. ZC came to me on Monday of this week. It was like, what are we thinking about the show for Sunday? And he was mapping it out. And I'm like, we got it. We're good. We'll figure it out. Don't fear not. We got YouTube capabilities. We can be remote. So we'll take care of you, buddy. Fear not.
Without giving too much away, Zach doesn't live that far from the station, right?
No. And he's downtown too. I think he could be, to the point where it's they're going to hook you. Downtown's getting hooked up first. East End and downtown are getting hooked up first.
Yeah, they're clearing that out. You're going to be fine to go down. I remember. So if you remember the ice storm of 2009,
how could I forget?
That was
a tree went through my parents' window. It was crazy.
Oh yeah. That was the winter of my freshman year, I think, of college. And me and a bunch of guys got just locked in, basically stayed at their apartment over off First Street in Old Louisville in that area. And we drove over. I remember we drove over a down tree and power lines, which is really stupid now I think about it, because my twin brother, Brian, wanted to get Double Dragon over off Goss. So we weathered the storm, and Double Dragon, they were still in there. They were still cooking up whatever.
Taxes and Chinese joints being open. You can rest assured of that.
Yeah. So they were doing it, and I remember I was back when I worked at B-Dubs. I had to drive all the way from downtown to B-Dubs in Middletown to go work my job for nobody to show up in. So Zach, it's time to nut up, Zach. I did this when I was 19, 18, whatever, 20 years old. You're in your 30s, bro. It's time. Big boy jobs. You got to show up.
EL Plus, the UK post. He's ready. He's got his on-air sign ready for the UK post-game show. He's ready.
Well, see, that's
to
the
do
difference.
That.
That's the difference, though. UK post-game show. He's the talent. He thinks he's the talent. He thinks the people are here
He's
to see
ready.
Zach.
Well, hopefully ZC's, stayed safe. He's going sledding at some of the area parks. Have fun out there. Just be bundled up if you do that. Good old ZC. So he's Justin Sofer. Appreciate him helping out in the second hour. I'm Phil Baker. Reminder, we'll keep you locked and loaded throughout the week here if you're bundled up. By the way, in 2009, I felt like I lived at a Heine Brothers because I lost my electricity and didn't have heat, and I was charging all my appliances there, and I didn't drink coffee at the time, so I was just total scumbag Steve, asking for a cup of water and just not paying for a thing and just charging all my appliances. I would have hated to see their electric bill there. But now I'm a coffee man, and now I drink their stuff, and I try to. Andy always makes fun of me in my hipster places that I always go out to. So that's what we do here.
Yes, sir.
On that. All right. So let's do this. I mean, just a couple more segments, just the last segment before we take you into the NFC and AFC championship games. Reminder, you can listen to that on all sticks here on ESPN 680 1057, the ESPN Louisville app. That coverage presented by our good friends at Bearno's, UPS Jobs, and Baptist Health and Barnes Automotive. I want to do this because Locke hates this. I love this. It's bracket matrix, and I don't want to get too bogged down in this. And, they'll update this more as we go along. And I don't think this has been updated as of yet because it's a little bit earlier. But, I think you got a big game with Louisville coming up against Duke tomorrow night, Monday night. Down in Cameron, Mikel Brown's been the conundrum out there. Kentucky looks like they're going to have a ton of quad one opportunities. Right now, Bracket Matrix has Louisville sitting as the top 6 seed from the ACC. So they're trying to climb that ladder, maybe get to a 4 or 5. They have, for the other 5 seeds, you have Kansas, Arkansas, Clemson, and Alabama down as the 5 seeds out there. Kentucky is sitting as the second 8 seed behind Central Florida with Utah State, Iowa, and Central Florida. So, I think Kentucky's going to have a ton of opportunities to climb up there with that. I think Louisville is more so going to be indicative of what that's going to, look like with the injuries that they have. Kentucky's battling injuries as well. The top 4 seeds, Arizona, Duke, Connecticut, and Michigan. Nebraska sneaky flying under the radar too with the season that they're having. But, what do you think? We talked about this a little bit with Andy and Nick earlier in the week. What do you think is the ceiling that Louisville could get in terms of seeding? Because I don't think they can probably go higher than a 4, in my opinion, with what they have in front of them.
Yeah, I'm trying to look through it right now too. I'm right there with you. That's kind of where I was sitting with the 4. But that, to me, I think a 4 is you're winning the ACC tournament. Is what I'm thinking with that. Because even with
because Florida, Virginia, I didn't mean to interrupt. Texas Tech, Florida, Virginia, Vanderbilt are ahead of you at the other 4 seeds according to Bracket Matrix. BYU, Illinois, Michigan State, Iowa State, and I think it's probably just rotate the 1s and 2s at this point unless the 4 completely falls out. So I agree with you.
Yeah, I think it really. I think obviously we're going to know a lot very soon. Tomorrow night. Going down to Cameron Indoor, Louisville's going to take on Duke. This is an opportunity. This is if Mikel Brown's going to, if he's going to play and be good to go and be playing at full strength against Duke, this will be an opportunity that I feel like Louisville's got to be able to get a win there if they're going to move forward. Otherwise, there's nothing. North Carolina and Clemson, fine, but I feel like in the end, there's not going to be a lot that's really going to impress anybody, and you're probably looking at like I said, where we are right now. 6-7-ish Louisville seed, in the end. Or, they could drop even farther.
and that's what's concerning. And regardless of Mikel Brown in there, I still think this team's littered with talent. And for what's the preseason expectations were supposed to be to that would be a disappointment for sure on that front. So, yeah, we shall definitely try and figure out what that. By the way, another story that's I heard Blankenbaker and Creighton talking about a little bit on Friday. The Duke story with the quarterback. I know we kind of been dabbling in it before we get to what else is going on. Duke and the Miami stuff, with the Duke quarterback and filing a lawsuit against its own quarterback, Darian Mensah. The university argues that he violated the terms of his NIL contract by entering the transfer portal. This is like the Washington quarterback. This is going to be a fascinating case study, and quite frankly, leverages for the universities to say, hey, like, we're going to try and make this like to protect the school. And you can't just do this thing where you sign something and reap all the benefits and take advantage of all the things that I think are rightfully so encouraged for the, student athlete to take advantage of, which I fully support, but there's got to be some parameters on this. And I think this is going to be an absolute fascinating case study. You had, Miami, who was in the national championship game. They got, a piggy bank with their billionaire down there, but then Duke, they're not, that place is littered. You don't think they get a super legal team down there kind of fine, taking everything with a magnifying glass for that. So I don't know how much you followed with that, but I think, moving forward, this is going to be something that a lot of other universities and athletic departments are going to be monitoring.
Well, it's interesting. I'm kind of glad that it's happening, to be honest, because I'm really interested to see like how this is going to pan out, because I just don't feel like it's sustainable long term. I mean, at least what we're believed to put out there about how much money is being spent on these players to go for a season, and I want to know how much of that's just being lit on fire by these guys who are like, oh, I got my money, got what I came here for, and then we talk about people having the frustrations of guys sitting out, not playing long term. I would like to know. Do we have example of a contract that we can really see? Like, is there anything that's, game related? Like, you need to play this percentage. You need to, if you're out for this long, you lose this much money. Because a lot of this stuff is, I wonder, the people that are really paying, they're pulling it out of their bank account. The big donors, yeah, they have a lot of money. But if they keep seeing bad investment after bad investment after bad investment, like that, this well's gonna dry up pretty quick.
Well, going back to what we talked about in the previous segment with, the expectations for Louisville and you alluding to that you feel like Louisville and Kentucky were kind of getting the pieces that were needed to make sure that they were going to be successful in the portal. I think what's fascinating to me and what people kind of point to is that, go back to the Trenton Flowers stuff with Louisville basketball. And that was kind of in its infancy with what that looked like in regards to, the family apparently getting some housing, some obligations not being fulfilled. And I don't claim to know all the ins and outs of that, but you got to protect yourselves too, because this is only going to go up. Like inflation in 2026, what the going rate is, and quite frankly, we saw it with Isaac Brown. People can get mad at Blank and Diener all they want, but you don't think Isaac Brown came back for a little pay bump here? I mean, that's leverage in this game. And I think when you are trying to figure out some of the parameters of these donors consistently going to these individuals going to donors over and over again, and the fandom money and for big spenders and supporters of the program is always fascinating to me, because at some point the stock market could be down, their business has a bad year, you can only go to the well so many times, and you can only tug on that fandom card and cord so many times to where you're quite frankly expecting individuals to continue to give at the amount that they're giving, and then quite frankly go back a year later and say, oh yeah, we need $1 million in order to retain this, and that's where these individuals are earning their money. And I'm with you. I think there needs to be some sort of contract.
Look at Kentucky this year. Look at that, the 20. Like, I mean, and it's basically confirmed. I'm not going to argue semantics over the $22 million. Like, they came to the table and said, we're buying a championship this year, basically. And I have to feel like that's what they felt like they were doing. Because if you look at everybody else, and if that's the way it's laid out, where Louisville is, $8 and $9 million, and a lot of teams are somewhere around that amount, and Kentucky's paying buku bucks overload. I don't. If I'm one of those guys, I have to think either I'm buying a Final Four. And I understand that's difficult to really kind of sell because it's all a gamble.
Yeah, I mean, you see it in pro sports with the Mets and Cowboys, and or more so with like the big name sports organizations trying to spend that amount of money and not fulfilling the championships or Final Fours and whatever it may. I agree with you on that.
Can I divert slightly? And I'm sorry, I've gotten off.
No, please go. We got about 10 minutes left in the show. Please go.
Yeah. I just kind of wanted to talk about, because we were talking about the Pat Kelsey stuff, we're talking about Louisville, we're talking about expectations. What I wonder, and this is maybe a little bit of a hot take for me, just given, because I know every time I put a tweet out there that is somewhat critical, people love to come back with, we just had KP a couple years ago, we just had this, we had the worst of the worst. I guess seeing how the rest of the season plays out, you're going to probably expect a loss in playing Duke and Cameron Indoor. Like, it's a hard, I say it's a hard place to win, but Louisville had a winning record against Coach K. So, I don't. I think unless it really faltered there at the end, it's possible it got away from him. But I know it's right about 500, or they have a winning record against Coach K. Anyway, whatever.
You didn't fear him like in the same way that you did with some of the other ones. I agree.
But at the same time, so the rest of the ACC is not super impressive. You go out there, somehow you end up with another 6 seed or 7 seed in the tournament, and then Pat Kelsey finds a way and ends up losing again round 1. How are we feeling? How are Louisville fans feeling? Is this just another, okay, that's fine. That's, it is what it is. It's what happens. Or do we start to say, well, that's year 2, no NCAA tournament wins? When do we start? When does the pressure set in for Pat Kelsey?
Yeah, that's interesting to me, because I feel like you've hit the nail on the head. Like, the landscape's changed where you can buy success, or maybe not correlate the national championships, but at least buy it to where you're in contention. You saw it last year. Pat Kelsey, 8-9 game, regardless of what you get upset about the seeding. They were much improved coach of the year. You have that. Yeah. But you're still viewing it through the prism of what Louisville basketball being a top 7-8 program of all time and having higher expectations for that. And that's the conundrum that I always struggle with. You are removed now from he who shall not be named, KP, and now you are addressing it. It's like, okay, is this the right fit moving forward with what the expectations and hanging banners and Final Fours up there? Because look, make no mistake about it. You're the guy. You're not the guy until you are the guy, and you've seen it with Tony Bennett. You've seen it with Billy Donovan, and the verdict's still out. But the sport's also littered with Chris Max of the world, Mark Godfrey's of the world. So you're kind of, and I don't know why. I think I saw Larry O'Bannon do a podcast with Mark Godfrey. I don't know why I went 0 to Mark Godfrey as just random middle of the tier coach out there. But you understand what I'm saying. It's you're not the guy until you are. And that's why I said, with the resources, having the NIL, having an athletic department that supports you, your hope is that Josh Hurd found a diamond in the rough. Now, the pressure that's out there, you were the ACC coach of the year last year. I think they're going to be a tournament team this year, but you were still, a lot of people were expecting you to be a Final Four contender. And that's what's going to be interesting, of how much heat is behind that, because it's a much more improved style of basketball. I'm with you on that. You crushed in the transfer portal. You got a McDonald's All-American Burger Boy.
You beat the bums, fine. You know what I mean?
Exactly. But you're expecting to beat up there with the Carolinas and Dukes of the world and Virginias of the world. And Virginia came in here and took care of business. And that's a first-year coach. So that's something. Now, I understand you were missing some pieces and you weren't at full strength. And I don't want to use that as a crutch. But as you try to find this new landscape and terrain of what you're trying to become in your new identity, you have to beat some of these upper echelon teams in conference and around the country.
Yeah, you have to beat one of the big boys, one of the big boy coaches. Shire is your opportunity on Monday. You got to beat, I'm trying to you already had the opportunities. I'm sorry, Rick Barnes, even though I don't really respect him. Rick Barnes is a guy who is a accomplished, experienced coach, at least. And then you have, Cal Perry's another one, and all these kind of guys. And every single time you stepped into one of these games, and while, we had 4 straight games of first half wins, and first half wins, second half losses, blown out losses against Duke, is one reason why, I know tomorrow, if they're up the first half, I'm just gonna be like, oh, well, that's cool. Doesn't matter. Yeah,
well, it's funny you said that. And I'm sitting here talking about injuries, and that's all fair and good. And everyone wants to put their tinfoil hats and be the sports injury doctor on Mikel Brown's back. But I say this in the same breath. I did a 180 on the London Johnson stuff from when it came out and Pat Kelsey was talking about it to where after talking with his reps and all that, dude, you had an opportunity. If a guy could have helped the team, That's on you all for not being on the same page with that, and take it a step further, recruiting this guy and making all these Louisville fans have to defend themselves against something that feels pretty gross. I mean, I have this pulled up on my timeline right now from, I don't know if you saw this as we kind of dabble in between what else is going on, but I mean, did you see the Todd Golden thing out there about the Alabama player, what he had to say? So basically, Florida head coach Todd Golden speaks on the Charles Biacco's return to Alabama. They were able to finagle it. This is quote from Todd Golden, the defending national championship head coach. We actually sneaky go back and listen to the tape. It's like I wanted him as one of the guys that Louisville considered, but it's what do I know? They were able to finagle it where they got a judge in Alabama, and that's actually a donor in Alabama to write a temporary restraining order. ... We're gonna beat them anyways. If he plays, we're going to beat them anyways. That is Todd Golden on just kind of the craziness of getting the G League player and a guy from the NBA on there. So he's a professional player that played for the Motor City Crews of the NBA G League. So, it's just to bring it back hyper local with like the Louisville stuff. And I think Kentucky, is kind of talking to a G League player too. What I saw some folks out there talk about it's a lot of Louisville fans were defending something that just feels a little, with the London Johnson stuff. Yeah. And then, Tom Izzo and all these, Dan Hurley and Scott Drew, which is rich because he ultimately did a 180 on it. They took a lot of shrapnel in defending their program for this, but then when he wasn't going to play, I feel like a lot of them were kind of like, if you're not going to do that and you're on a different team, this is going to feel very gross. But I'm with you. If he had an opportunity to play and could help the team, man, like that's something that I think definitely needs to, put a spotlight on here in the years to come.
Additionally, I had to point this out too because it's still, I think the tweet was still up, but like Louisville went out and the Louisville basketball account tweeted with London Johnson's jersey, like a hype up tweet of like his jersey just sitting in the,
it was like a Mark Weinberg tweet. They did the eyes emojis for a radar, and it's like, okay. And that's just not being on the same page. No, I'm with you on that.
Take it down by now. Like after he
it's still up there, you said?
I'm pretty sure
wow.
It's
That's
still
funny.
up. I'll have to check my timeline after this, but I'm pretty sure I had retweeted it and I tweet enough, but not that much. I can find it if it's still there. But I don't think they took it down. So that's
great. I love that so much. All right, he's Justin Sofro. I'm Phil Baker. Appreciate you making us a part of your snowy Sunday here on your sports station, ESPN 680 1057, the ESPN Louisville app. I'm not even going to attempt to do the open for what else is going on. We'll dive into a couple random stories to close out the day. Reminder, Diener and Blank in some capacity. I don't know if Creighton's sleeping here. Creighton was talking about bringing Chip, Diener's dog, to the studio, and he was just going to be here all day with James Black. So I have no idea what's happening tomorrow. I just know we will be on in some capacity. People may be hitting Sofa up. It's like, how can I be remote via YouTube? So Sofro, Sports Jesus or Snow Jesus, take the wheel. I have no idea what's going to happen on that. But a couple other things that are out there. So 200 million Americans are expected to be impacted by the winter storms this week, and with the majority of the country potentially snowed in. That could open the door for the NFL's conference championship games to see big boosts on TV. I mean, I think this number is going to be massive. We were talking about the Miami Indiana game having like 33.1 million people viewing that. I think you're going to get a minimum of like 50 million people watching this. I have no idea if that's like up there with the Super Bowl numbers, but I think between streaming devices and that, it's going to be a massive number in which they take a victory lap for sure.
Oh yeah, you're locked in the house. We all went and got. My wife was texting me the other day asking, "What do you need me to pick up from the store from you?" And I know it's. I'm like, babe, it's gonna be big boys eating big boy food. Like I'm not. We got chicken wings. We got all this stuff. Everybody's locked in their house, sitting up there. They're laid back watching these games. Like that's what I'm gonna be doing here shortly in a little bit.
Well, hopefully everyone's stocked up on their Cox's and Evergreen Liquors supplies, and they can be warm and toasty. And hopefully, I'm already having in my brain, Monday and Tuesday school's out. So hopefully by Wednesday, we're back to somewhat sense of normalcy on that. So I have no idea what that's going to look like here in the days to come with that. So did you see Fernando Mendoza? He's doing all these interviews, and did you see Kirk Cinetti get to take over the Google page? Did you see that? And Chipotle.
I did see that. What did it say? He won or something like when you pull it down.
Like he said, Google me, and then it said, yeah, he won. So good on him. I mean, he's just living his best life all around, man.
Did you see the Fernando Mendoza, the tweet that went out where it was like it's like the sob story of his life? And it's like, he took his dad, and his dad was going and sending out his footage to anybody that would listen, anybody that could get him to play. And it's like, it's probably because I'm on the opposite side of a team that continues to tell me that we're on a collision course with a national championship, and they come out of nowhere after 2 years of just dreck. Like literally, the closest thing Indiana had was they were, Jack Grossman celebrating 9 Indiana, and then all of a sudden they go out there and win a freaking championship. Like that kills me. So then I have to see this, and I'm like, oh, he's such a great kid. Oh, everybody loves him. I'm like, just get it out of my face. I don't need, I'm happy for you. I'm happy for you, Fernando, but I don't need to see it as a Louisville fan.
Yeah, it's going to turn some people off for sure. But they're going to sell the rights to some Disney movie, and they're going to make it like, Friday Night Lights, Remember the Titans, or maybe it's more like The Program, the critically acclaimed movie from the 90s that gets forgotten. That is one of my sneaky favorite movies out there for sports. So by the way, Rams and Bears got an average of 45.4 million views on NBC. Granted, that's the Chicago and LA market, probably boosting that. But I would imagine with the Snowden, you don't got the biggest names of the sport like a QB. You got a backup QB for the Broncos out there. And, Josh Allen isn't in there. Mahomes isn't in there. But I still think this is going to be a massive number out there. All right. Appreciate it. If you're driving around, like I said, keep it locked here. AFC NFC Championship presented by our good friends at Baptist Health, Bud Light, Cox's, and Evergreen Liquors, and Bearnos. He's Justin Sofro. Are you going to do the show tonight? Is that the plan? Or what's the plan tonight for After Dark?
That's the goal. Still looking for a co-host. So those tweets will be those text messages are going out right now. And it's what happened the last couple weeks. Jinky, I love you, my guy. I went to the Jinky well because every time I ask somebody, we're busy. Oh, it's late. I'm tired. You got no excuses now, guys. You're stuck in your home. So if you want to takes, you want to get them out Sunday night. If you're listening to this, hit me up.
ZC's available on that. All right, a happy 51st birthday. Oh, my goodness. Is Sofaro going to drink her bathwater? She may impregnate me. Tiffany Amber Thiessen, Kelly Kapowski. It's finally happened. Be still my heart. We'll talk to you next week.